two countries that were at war with each other just a few years ago. Now these individuals will be sitting next to each other in the temple.
From the man who leads them, their prophet.
What a pleasure it is to look into your faces.
The story of thousands of people who are now united by faith. The temple in Helsinki, Finland marks the 124th built in the world by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As with other temples, it opens its doors to church members from several nations. In this case, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, the three countries known as the Baltic states, and Western Russia, and of course, Finland. Through the ages, these peoples have sometimes been peaceable neighbors, but wars and occupations have occurred many times. The beauty of the Baltic states remains both striking and rich. The centuries-old picturesque castles combine with the colors of their cultures and the modern cityscapes that speak of growing economies and international relations. But many still remember the horrors of the Second World War. Citizens of all three nations, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, experienced 3 invasions in less than 5 years. Thousands were forced or drafted into military service, deported, tortured, or murdered. All because of a secret agreement between the Nazis and the Soviets in 1939.
Basically, it was a pact, and the secret passages were to divide up that part of Eastern Europe. And directly affected were the 3 countries that we're looking at now.
When World War II is over, then the Russians, the Soviets come back in, the Soviet army, and they come in and they establish communism there, and there's a huge number of Russians then that are brought in, and there have been different times when these countries had been, we call it, Russification.
Whether under the Nazis or the Soviets, Lithuania lost more than 500,000 people. In this country, 10% of the population is still Russian, 81% ethnic Lithuanians. Of the 3.5 million people, the vast majority are Catholic. There are only about 800 Latter-day Saints. Elder M. Russell Ballard dedicated Lithuania for missionary work in May 1993 here on Gedimino Hill, which overlooks the capital, Vilnius. Most Lithuanians are still skeptical about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, calling it non-traditional, and news about the faith is often negative. Salius Niurka became a Latter-day Saint in 1993. His father, a devout Catholic, was not happy about it.
At least he accepts that I'm in another church, and he still thinks that it's kind of sect or cult, but I think he maybe sees that it doesn't make me worse person that I was, so maybe it's good.
In Vilnius, there are 2 church branches. Salius serves as the president of the Lithuanian district. Dinas Grinavičius and his wife are Russians and are members of the Russian branch, but still feel a friendship with the Lithuanian saints.
They're all my friends, so, and I hope they're friends too. We are their friends too.
Dinas became a church member in 1993. He works for Delta Airlines and travels a lot. Soon he will go to Helsinki to see the new temple.
When I was in the States, I went there for a business trip, but I didn't miss the opportunity to see the temple, and I went there every time I had a free minute, and I wish we could have an even closer one, but it's close enough, and it's better than some of the people have, so we're really happy, and I really like to be there.
Others are equally happy, feeling that this new temple brings greater confidence and spirituality.
Earlier there was a problem. All the members were unable to visit the temple. People who return from the temple better understand Christ's teachings. They're filled with Christ's spirit and love.
The new temple reminds one Lithuanian Latter-day Saint of the fulfillment of a prayer he uttered more than 10 years ago. Then he says he was an atheist who had serious family problems.
I said, Lord, if you really are, if you exist, please guide me, show me a way, and I will do whatsoever you will ask me to do. And he said me, don't worry about your family. If you will believe in Jesus, you will be saved, and will be saved your family. And when I was sealed at the temple, I understood that it is fulfillment of his promise. So I know that gospel is true, and Lord is living and here.
The capital city of Latvia is Riga. It now celebrates both its old world look with cobbled medieval streets and preserved or rebuilt churches, hotels and restaurants, and its modern business high-rises. 2.3 million people live in the country. 60% are ethnic Latvians, 30% are Russian, 60% are Lutheran in faith. But just 67 years ago, this city fell under a firestorm during World War II. The Latvians experienced 3 occupations by 2 military regimes within a 5-year period.
A number of the people in these smaller countries collaborated with the Germans because they had the hope that the Germans would save them from communism and would give them some kind of independence. There were, for example, a number of Latvian SS units that fought in the Second World War, but the Germans never gave them the independence they wanted.
The Latvians have built a museum in their capital city in honor of those who were held in camps by the Nazis, inside dorms like these. 90,000 people, mostly Jews, were tortured and killed. During and after the war, under Stalin, nearly 70,000 citizens were displaced, sent to Siberia, and never heard from again. Latvia, along with its neighbors Lithuania and Estonia, gained independence in 1991. In 1993, an important spiritual event for Latter-day Saints took place in this small, charming seaside town called the Pearl of Latvia. President James E. Faust traveled there from Salt Lake City.
It was on the 17th of March when 28 church members, missionaries, and leaders gathered here at Jurmala. And Elder Faust, with his back toward the sea, facing the nation, pronounced a blessing on the people and their land.
I met Latvia's Latter-day Saint pioneers, Velga Senkane and her husband Gvido Senkans, now in Area Authority 70. They joined the church in 1991.
When I was baptized, I told my friends that I was baptized in such a nice church, and it's true. And they asked, how many church members are in Latvia? And I thought, nobody.
Married now for 17 years, they have 5 children. They were baptized in Russia. He was studying law in Moscow when he first saw missionaries.
I just wanted to find out why they are so happy. It looked strange for me.
After reading the Book of Mormon in Russian, Elder Senkans asked the missionaries to give him a copy of the Doctrine and Covenants. They only had it in English, which he couldn't read.
And I started to read, and I just read, and in the beginning I didn't understand at all. Then I started to remember some phrases, some words, and later I checked this dictionary, which this word should mean something like between. And in one year I just find out that I can understand.
Soon he translated both the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants into Latvian. Married in the temple in Stockholm, Sweden, they traveled to Helsinki for the open house of their new temple.
We sit in celestial room together with our kids. It was special. We would like to be in celestial kingdom together.
In this capital city lives another member of the family who also practices law. Gvido's brother, Gatis, became a Latter-day Saint in 1992. He says he and his brother grew up in a regular Soviet family.
I remember that in school we were taught that there is no God and that scientists have proved that, and spaceships have been in space and there is no God was found there. Yeah, and so that idea is very ridiculous, and only some unintelligent people can believe in God.
Communism, he says, became the people's religion. Churches were closed.
We had our own god, Lenin, whose pictures were on the walls, and we heard many stories how good kid he was and how smart and how good he was. And I remember me thinking that Lenin was the best person who ever lived on the earth.
But Gatis says he began to search, going into churches but not understanding. He wondered whether Jesus of the Bible and the Book of Mormon really existed, Latter-day Saint missionaries told him to pray.
I received beautiful spiritual experience of Holy Ghost, telling my heart and my mind that those things are true and He is Son of God and He is Christ.
Latvia now has 800 church members. Gunita Graubuda was a young woman of faith, first Catholic, then she attended the Lutheran Church. She says she was looking for more.
I was praying about this, but God can show me where is a better place to be, a better church and so on. And after some few weeks, I met missionaries on street.
In her beloved city, her prayers were answered.
I felt Holy Ghost very, very strong in my heart, and it was easy for me to learn these things.
In Riga, there are 4 branches of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, 2 Russian, 2 Latvian. There were cultural differences with the people, but the biggest problem was the language. After decades under Soviet rule, the Latvians no longer wanted to have to speak Russian.
They may worship separately, but church members say that doesn't mean they aren't united spiritually.
I don't really care, Latvian or Russian. We're all brothers and sisters. We're not against Russians. It's okay because it's the same gospel.
Siegfried and Rasma Liepa became Latter-day Saints in 1995. They had been people of faith, Lutherans, all their lives, but only attended church on Christmas and Easter. Siegfried had fought the Russians in World War II. Now they are both members of the same faith.
So that's history, what happened in the World War. Don't really hate them. They're good people.
When we met Paul Ivanov, he was busy building scenery for the cultural celebration. Before she died, he and his wife served as missionaries at the Stockholm Temple.
So that's what we felt when we were serving at the Stockholm Temple. When people from all over Europe were coming, when people from the United States were arriving, we felt that this is the place where Heavenly Father is gathering all His people.
Slava and Irina Kondradiev, members for 15 years now, recently returned from serving more than a year and a half in the Stockholm Temple. They live in this run-down apartment building in St. Petersburg in a 4th-floor walk-up that belonged to his father. They sold their home, some property, and her business to go to Sweden. They say they experienced firsthand the brotherhood that can exist between people of different nations who worship together.
I think that the Lord has done it very cleverly and very wisely, that He has created in the world a place where we, people of different nationalities, can come together, not knowing each other's language. We can understand each other, and we can understand what we have to do in order to be happy.
I had an experience with a brother from Finland who went to the Stockholm Temple, and he was living in Karelia. 60 years ago, he was sent out of his house because Karelia was occupied by Russia. But when we were meeting with his brother at the temple in Stockholm, we were always embracing each other. We were giving hugs to each other.
Now we have friends from different countries, from Denmark, from Finland, from Norway, from the United States, from the Baltic countries. We don't know the languages of these people so well, but we have these dear friends and we love them so much. And that's what the temple did to us.
When you travel to Finland, make no mistake, you are not in Scandinavia. Though long ruled by the Swedes, Finland maintains its own independent identity. Now considered a progressive country, the Finns too suffered great losses during World War II. First the Russians, then the Germans, finally the Russians again occupied the country. 85,000 Finnish lives were lost between 1941 and 1944, as was territory along the Arctic Ocean. Today, 5.2 million people live in Finland. The economy is considered the most competitive in the world with the best business climate. Finns are known for their honesty. The crime rate here is extremely low. Crimes against children are nearly unheard of. Finland's public school system is ranked as the finest in the world. Most Finns speak at least 3 languages, and almost everyone speaks English.
Here in Helsinki, thousands of Latter-day Saints from 6 nations have gathered for a cultural celebration.
I picked up this little Finnish flag. I like it. It's so simple. It has the Christian cross saying that this is a Christian land. Treasure it, respect it, love it, and make it a glorious thing among the nations of the earth.
President Gordon B. Hinckley traveled to Helsinki in October of 2006 to dedicate a new temple. The day before, he met with church members. Elder Richard G. Scott joined him.
I hope you can feel, while we all speak different languages, we understand the language of the Spirit.
The Tower of Babel was the opening theme for the evening's cultural celebration. So fitting, they all thought, with Latter-day Saints from 5 nations gathered, speaking different languages, bringing different cultural traditions. Just as in ancient times, those barriers soon came down. Latter-day Saints from Russia took the stage first, reminding the audience of their country's love of the fine arts. But the dance soon ended as the men were called to war. However, in this program, they simply danced more. It proved to be one of the favorite moments of the night. The Lithuanian Latter-day Saints also traveled a long distance to be here. They performed a traditional folk dance with grace and spoke in awe that they could be in the same place as President Hinckley.
I'm so excited that I could see a prophet here, and I never saw dedication, so maybe that's my only chance in my life to see dedication and prophet.
I want to cry when he came, because it was my first time when I saw him real, and it was wonderful.
We are all one huge family, and all our goal is to be blessing to people, to bring them joy and make them happy. And we are instruments, a little instruments today, and I hope will be a little greater instruments in future.
Likewise, the Latvians, who told a native folk tale about a young girl stolen from her homeland. But this tragic story ends in hope. Estonians crossed by ferry from their country, arriving to sing and dance their native folk tunes. In this celebration, children, young adults, and their parents each took center stage.
It's hard to believe until you see it. And all this, all together. These are members from all over. It's amazing.
The Finns put on an amazing show. As a people, they love nature and celebrate everything from the landscape to the wildlife. One of their favorite creatures, the reindeer. Then it was time to come together. Performers from each nation united as one people, celebrating the completion of their new temple. They came by the thousands from 5 nations, calling their new temple an answer to their prayers.
Like I told one of my best friends, wake up your wife. It was midnight in Finland. We are going to have a temple in Finland, and we all cried.
Announced in 2000, it took Finnish church leaders a while to get the permits. But by 2004, construction was underway. Building supervisor Quentin White and his wife Rita arrived from Salt Lake. She is Finnish. They both served missions here. They remark about the quality of the workmanship and the character of the builders.
one of the hardest things for me right now is to say goodbye to them. Having worked with them almost every day and got to know their wives and their children, and we have really grown to love them.
We expected we would do well if we got 15,000 people to look at it. We were hoping for 25. But it kept building from day to day. More people came day after day. The next day it was more and more crowded right to the end. And over 57,000 came.
He is speaking about the temple's open house, a huge success. The majority of Finns are Lutheran, but after a 59-year presence, they're still skeptical of Latter-day Saints. More than 1% of Finland's population toured the temple. That's 12 times the number of members here.
There's a sense of welcome, a sense of gratitude, especially for the kind of site the temple is on. One visitor said what he liked best about his visit to this temple open house was meeting the members of the church.
We heard of one couple, non-members of the church, driving 6 hours to come and see the temple because the word spread so fast about how lovely it was and the spirit that was felt inside the temple.
The Helsinki temple decor brings together the clean lines of Finnish design with the beauty of the landscape and an appreciation for the colors of earth and sky. Rich blues and greens in the stained glass windows combine with a shimmering chandelier in the celestial room. Now a member of the temple presidency, Mark Peterson was the church's first missionary into Finland 60 years ago. He believes this is a true coming together.
You can have integration laws, but they don't bring about real integration of families and cultures. But in the gospel you do. There are no boundaries, no races. We're just one family.
It is a remarkable gathering of thousands of Latter-day Saints from Eastern Europe, all coming together for one purpose, the dedication of their new temple.
What a marvelous occasion this is, when we dedicate a house of the Lord. I'm now an old man. This may be the last temple that I'll dedicate, but we'll just see how things go.
Philip Estes serves as the mission president. A former missionary here in 1965, he says not only is the language tremendously difficult, but so is the work. Baptisms are few, but once Finns become members, they are tremendously committed to temple work.
It started in the Swiss temple 50 years ago. They were stalwart in their attendance. They are known for going over there in busloads and supporting temple activity. Then one opened in Sweden. Then we supported that temple. Then one opened in Denmark, and now we have our own devoted to temple work and doing their genealogy.
Missionary work has seen a sudden increase following the temple open house. The Finns requested 3,300 Books of Mormon.
Let's hope that the great interest that the temple has created will result in more baptisms.
President Hinckley talked of the intense interest in this dedication back in the States.
I have participated in the dedication or rededication of 94 of the 124 temples, but I've never seen such enthusiasm as I've seen with reference to the Helsinki temple.
Many former Finnish missionaries watched the dedicatory services in Helsinki by closed circuit to the Assembly Hall on Temple Square.
To see President Hinckley and some of the brethren there in person in Finland, to me, was unbelievable. I can't imagine what that would have been like for the members there.
Serving as church public affairs missionaries, Blaine and Anne-Marie Davis live in Frankfurt, but traveled to Finland many times.
As we approached the country, we knew that the Spirit of the Lord was resting here, which was a very spiritual feeling for us. And we have felt it every time we've come into the country.
Dedication morning at the end of October brought thick clouds, very cool temperatures, and rain, except when President Hinckley appeared. After church leaders put mortar around the cornerstone, a couple of children did the same.
It felt wonderful, and it was nice to stand next to him because otherwise he couldn't see him very well.
It felt good. And exciting.
That little girl's mother was wearing her grandmother's dress on this special occasion.
And when she died or passed away, I inherited this dress, and it felt to me appropriate that this dress would be on me when I go to the temple, because I'm sure she never could have imagined that we would be having a temple in Finland.
Those who spent time inside their new temple came out deeply moved.
Thanks for Heavenly Father, what He loves us and gives so many blessings, and very exciting.
It's beyond words, very wonderful, peaceful, and just very spiritual.
When we are in the temple, we just don't somehow think about what nationality you are or which country you come from. You are sons and daughters of the God.
God bless you, my beloved brothers and sisters, you wonderful Finnish saints.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints reaches into a developing frontier in the Baltic states, Western Russia, and Finland. The depth of faith these church members possess seems to indicate a rich reservoir yet untapped. Their new temple, they say, brings together those who fought on opposite sides of a world war. They believe it stands as a beacon, shining a light of hope for an even brighter future.